All right, we are recording, so I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation again. And I hope you can all see it. So we are going to get started talking about leadership applications. And let's see if we can move forward. A little bit about me. I shared a little bit during the poll, but my name is Ashley, or Miss Ashley, if you haven't met me before. Raised in Magnolia, Arkansas, so I am Arkansas, but Magnolia is in the very southwest corner of the state, and it is pretty close to Louisiana, closer than, but now I live in Little Rock, living. Hey guys, I am not sure what's happening. Every time I share my screen, it seems like Zoom crashes. So I'm going to do this without sharing my screen. And then when I send out the recording, I'll make sure to attach the slides as well. And hopefully here in a little bit, if it can get its act together, I'll at least be able to share and show you where the applications are. And I'll definitely put links in the chat so that you'll be able to open them up yourselves. Does that sound good to everyone? Yeah, okay, bear with me. I don't know what's happening with our Zoom right now. So sharing a little bit about myself. So like I said, I'm from Magnolia, which is in the very southwest corner of the state, but live in Little Rock now. I love all things outdoor, love to be outside, love to be in the water, and swimming. I love to cook and bake, all those kinds of things. And as you would have seen in my presentation, and as you'll see when I send it out later, I am an overuser of GIFs. That's how I love to communicate to my friends via text. And anytime you see me do any kind of slide presentation, it's going to have a lot of GIFs in it. So look forward to that when you do get the slides on the back end of this. So in Arkansas, our state leadership system is set up to be kind of a tiered system, with Teen Star being kind of your first step that you take. Well, I guess the first step being a leader in your county. So being, whether that's serving on a county council or a club office position. And then from there on the state level, the first real step is to be a Teen Star. And Teen Star is an award that you get for showing your commitment to 4-H and how you've been a leader thus far in 4-H. And then after being a Teen Star for a year, you are eligible to apply for ambassadorship. And Arkansas 4-H ambassadors are truly ambassadors of the program. They are there to promote Arkansas 4-H across the state. They are to help plan Teen Leader Conference and serve on committees to plan out the full conference for you when you attend TLC, share about 4-H and encourage others to join. And then once you've been an ambassador for a full year, you are eligible to apply for state officer and to be a state officer candidate. State officers are truly the face of our program. I think I saw a couple of our current state officers jump in this evening. So if you have questions for them, they can answer in a little bit. But state officers are heading up the committees that help plan TLC. They are serving as the face of 4-H to our higher ups administration within our university organization, and then also to people and organizations that sponsor us, such as Arkansas Farm Bureau or Farm Credit, Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, and lots of others. So it is kind of a tiered system. You got to do one step to do the next one, but we're going to walk you through that, and I'm going to kind of show you a couple of those things, hopefully. So one thing that we now have on our 4-H website, and something you're going to hear a lot through this presentation, is talking about your 4-H age. And I know this can be kind of confusing sometimes, but your 4-H age is how old you are on January 1st of every year. And that's the age you carry throughout that year to be eligible for different programs. So in the chat, I'm going to throw a link to part of our website And it is our 4-H eligibility tracker. It's got a calculator on there now that you can put your birthday in, and it will show you what your 4-H age is. So when you're going to apply for these things, and I tell you what the age, your 4-H age has to be, and you're questioning, you can put your age in there and check that. And that goes for the whole year. If it's for a contest or an event, attending TLC, any of those kinds of things. If you're wanting to check your 4-H age and make sure you're old enough to apply for what you're looking at or to compete in whatever contest you're looking at, this new age calculator is really, really handy. So just remember that as we go through our slides here. So first off, we're going to talk about Teen Star, and our Teen Stars, like I said, are the first step on our state leadership journey. And Teen Stars must be 14 years old as their 4-H age, or as of January 1st of the current year. So if you are 14 years old, then you are, as of January 1st, then you are eligible to apply for Teen Star. You have to have completed 1 full year of being in 4-H to be eligible to apply for Teen Star. Be an active member in our 4-H enrollment and event system, or active in your county. And the application for that is due on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. And that's a date you're going to remember through this entire presentation, and you're going to hear it several times. So that application is due on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. Teen Stars are recognized and awarded each year during our Teen Star and Hall of Fame banquet that happens at Teen Leader Conference. And TLC is June 7th through the 9th this year. It's a Wednesday through a Friday. And that banquet to recognize our Teen Stars is on Wednesday, so the first night of TLC. And one of the committees planning TLC is to plan for that banquet. So you get a group of your peers of ambassadors and a state officer who are planning a banquet specifically for you as a brand new Teen Star. And it's just a really exciting evening. So some of the application components that go along with being or applying for being a Teen Star is it's going to ask you for your meaning of 4-H. So it's going to ask, kind of what 4-H means to you and why you'd like to be a Teen Star. It's going to ask you to list up to 5 leadership roles that you've held within 4-H. And those have to be within 4-H. And they need to be leadership roles. So it could be serving as the president of your club, could be being the song leader, the recreation leader, snack leader. Committees typically aren't considered a leadership role. So it needs to be an actual role that you've held and not serving on a committee. And you can list up to 5 of those. If you only have 3 or 4, that's totally fine too. I'm going to talk about the scoring process here in a second, but you can only list up to 5. The next is going to ask about 4-H projects, and you can list up to 3 4-H projects that you've had. If you've had the same project throughout your entire time in 4-H, that's a-okay. But if you have switched or you have a couple secondary 4-H projects, feel free to list those, but just up to 3 of them. 4-H competitive events, any competitive events that you've been in. So all within 4-H though, but any livestock showing, any contest, ARAMA contests you've done in your county or at the district level, if you've competed in the food challenge or if you compete in shooting sports, all of those are great to list there. It will ask about record books submitted, and it is books that you have actually submitted, but that can be on any level. So if it goes back to your Cloverbed days and a beginner record book, that's a-okay. Or it can be any of the intermediate books you've done, or if you're toward the age or at the age of submitting advanced books, obviously that works great too. But just up to 3 books that you have actually submitted, and just list the project or the kind of the main title of that record book as the record book submitted along with the year. 4-H recognition. So this would be awards that you've won within 4-H. And that could be on the county or club level, could be county level, could be in the district level or state. Any of those apply. And just anything from most improved, club member, or if your county does some kind of breakout star or anything like that can be included. So 4-H mentoring is another part. Any mentor or any people or peers, club members that you have mentored, whether that's showing them how to wash and fluff a livestock animal for the county fair. If it's showing them how to properly hold a knife when you're chopping something, if it's about canning, whatever it is, list the person's name, and it doesn't have to be first and last. It could just be first name if you'd rather keep their identity more secure, their age, and what you mentored them on. And I've seen a lot that come through, and I think this is really smart to include on mentoring 4-Hers on like dances, like the classic like line dances that happen at a lot of 4-H dances at TLC or Arama. And some people might think that's silly, but it's actually really smart. That's something that you're helping that person learn, that they might have come in and been like, whoa, what is going on here? I don't know any of these line dances. I can't participate. But if you've shown them beforehand, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable participating in that. And so I think that's really, really smart. And then lastly, and arguably one of the bigger components of this Teen Star application is a short essay question. And the short essay is a good chunk of this Teen Star application. So make sure you're actually answering the question. There is a rubric included on the application, so you can kind of see what we're looking for before you even go to write your essay. And make sure you're answering the question that is being asked, and telling some story that's related to the question. So this year's question is related to being determined and using creativity within 4-H. And I'm going to put the application link in the chat. So if you want to open it and check it out, then you can do that. Just give me 1 second. Any questions while I'm putting this in there about Teen Star? Anyone have any questions about Teen Star or applying for Teen Star? There is the application link if you'd like to look at that. And for anyone who's just joining or I just let in from the waiting room, Zoom, something with sharing screens is making Zoom crash tonight. So we are pivoting and adjusting, and I am just kind of talking. So if you've got questions as I'm going through, feel free to unmute or throw it in the chat because I can see the chat. So since I see no questions about Teen Star, I'm going to move on to talking about Ambassador, but I'll come back to a bigger Q&A time at the end if you think of some questions while we're waiting. All right, so ambassadors, like I already said before, to be eligible to be an ambassador, you have to have been a Teen Star for a 1 full year. And you also must be 15 as of January 1st, which goes without saying because you have to be 14 as of January 1st to apply for Teen Star. So then a year later, it kind of falls in line that you would be 15. You must not turn 19 in the same year that your application is submitted. So that means you can't turn 19 in the year 2023, because that means you're going to retire or you're going to age out of 4-H as of December of this year. And so it'd just be a whole process for not even getting a full year of being an ambassador. Your application to apply for ambassador is also due on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. And interviews, so the application for ambassador, I'm going to talk about that, and then I'll come back and talk about interviews and how you're recognized and all of that. So the ambassador application components there are 3 short answer questions, and they are totally your thoughts and your opinions in these short answers. But I'll go ahead and read them out just real quick. So what do you think is the most important role of an Arkansas 4-H ambassador? And so you'll put what your thoughts and your opinion is there. If you were at TLC, at Teen Leader Conference at the Arkansas 4-H Center, and you witnessed a 4-H'er bullying or talking down to another 4-H'er, how would you handle that situation? And so you'll just kind of describe that in the answer box. And then lastly, the last short answer question is, what contributions do you feel that you can make to the Arkansas 4-H Ambassador Program? And so you'll answer those 3 short answer questions. And then the other thing is to upload your resume. And there is a link in the application for tips on resume building. And it can be the same type of resume or the same resume that you use when submitting your record books. Or it can be something if your school has a resume building workshop or something, or your county does, and they build you or help you build a resume, then feel free to submit that. It does not have to be in any sort of specific template. But you will attach your resume, and then I believe you and a parent or guardian kind of have to digitally sign. I realize it's not going to be a perfect signature when you're signing on screen or signing with your mouse, but just so that we know you and your parent or guardian are agreeing to you being an ambassador and having a little bit more responsibility within the 4-H program. One of the bigger parts of our ambassador decision-making process is that ambassadors have interviews that are held on the first day of TLC each year. So like I said, TLC is June 7th through the 9th. So that Wednesday morning, really before TLC kicks off, we send out an ambassador interview schedule, and those interviews are held that morning at the 4-H Center. And they consist of a 4-H promotional speech, and you'll get guidelines on that promotional speech and how long it can be and all those good things if you are chosen to move on in the process. And so you'll give your promotional speech, and then typically the judges in the room will ask you, 2 to 3 general interview questions or questions about your speech. And then teen stars are selected and notified on the last day of TLC. So you would interview on June 7th, and you'll know by June 9th this year. And then new ambassadors are recognized at our closing ceremony during State-O-Rama each July. So it's the last on Thursday of State-O-Rama week, and you'll come through, you'll get your polo at the beginning of that week. So you'll wear your new ambassador polo on stage, and you'll receive your name tag on stage. So it's a really fun to get to see all the new ambassadors come through during that closing ceremony. So just like I did with the Teen Star application, I'm going to put the ambassador one in the chat, the ambassador application. And if you have questions about that application or serving as an ambassador, please feel free to ask them. We have lots of ambassadors here in this Zoom tonight. I see a few of them. I see Adeline right here on my screen. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. I know she would like to answer, and any of the other officers or ambassadors here would answer as well. So if you have questions, don't be shy, throw them in the chat. All right, like I said, we'll come back for a question and answer time. But while you're thinking about it, we're going to move on to talk about state officers. So if you are already an ambassador, you've been an ambassador for a full year, like we talked about, you are eligible to apply to be a state officer candidate. So state officers must have been named an ambassador in a previous year, like I just said. They also must not turn 19 years old during the calendar year in which their application is submitted. So for example, if you are thinking about applying for state officer, you cannot turn 19 in the year 2023. Because again, at the end of this year, if you were turning 19 in 2023, you would be aging out. You would no longer be a state officer during, or if 4-H or even during your state officer term. So you cannot turn 19 during 2023. Your application is also due on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. There are a few things that come along with being a state officer candidate, and your application is actually fairly simple. I believe it's attaching a resume and there's one question that asks why you would like to, run for a state officer position, with collecting some information, general information. But it's pretty simple at that point. I know most of the ambassadors, they have reached out for questions. They've attended ambassador workshop and TLC and those good things. So I don't need a whole lot of question answering on an application. But that's also because there's a few things that you have to do between application process and election that help me get to know you better, and you get to know potentially what being a state officer is like better. So one of the parts after a state officer application is there is a state officer candidate review day that is held each year. And Candidate Review Day is not an elimination event. That's the most important thing I want any of you to hear that are considering ever applying for state officer, or especially applying for state officer this year. It is not an elimination event at all. This is more of a preparation, screening, review type event, where you get to see some of the actions and some of the things that you might be asked to do as a state officer. And I get to see your strengths and maybe some weaknesses when it comes to those things. This year, State Officer Candidate Review Day is Friday, April 21st. We do say it's a mandatory event. If for some reason there is an equal like level 4-H event or trip happening, like I know last year, I think some candidates were on a national 4-H trip. Obviously, we will work with you there, but otherwise it is a mandatory in-person event on Friday, April 21st. And when all of these applications, when you submit your application, you get a confirmation email to whatever email you put on the application that will have some follow-up information, and all of this calendar information is included in the state officer application confirmation email. But the events that are held at Review Day are impromptu speaking, panel interview, storytelling, and then there's a networking and semi-formal lunch to round out the morning. And again, you'll get rubrics, instructions, and tips for all 3 of those events before Review Day happens. Moving on from Review Day, there is an election process. So candidates who, when you apply, you will choose what positions that you are running for. So when you submit your application on, or hopefully before March 15th, you will choose if you are running in your district only, which means you would only be elected as a district vice president. You can run on the state only, which would be our general state office positions, such as first vice president, reporter, or secretary. You can run for both of those, run on the district and in the state level. You can run for president only, and then you can run for everything and just run for the whole ballot. Last year, we updated our voting or our election process, a little bit. District elections are still held at each districtorama in June. So at your districtorama, you have the opportunity, all registered contestants of districtorama have the opportunity to vote. And then those results are just kept and locked away. And so that those candidates have the opportunity to run on the state level as well. And so then state elections are held at Stateorama during the general business meeting. Each county that is attending a Stateorama has the opportunity to nominate 2 voting delegates from their county. And those voting delegates, each county does it a little bit differently, but they're encouraged to talk with their county and kind of see what the consensus of the county is and where they want to place their votes. And then those delegates act on behalf of the county. And so then those election results are tallied by people that not myself, but other people that we, asked to do that. And then they are compared with the district, and each candidate is placed into the highest office that they are elected to. So for instance, say you have 3 people running in the Ouachita district, and Joe Bob has the most votes, and Susie has the second most votes. And then we get to state election and Stateorama, and Joe gets the most votes overall, which would be into the president role. He has been voted as the president. Then Susie would be put in as their district vice president. So no district, unless they don't have enough candidates, no district will be without a vice president. But the candidate is placed into the highest position that he or she is voted into. And if you have questions on that, I know it sounds a little complicated, so feel free to ask them and put them in the chat. But I always tell everyone that the biggest secret, well, I guess I'll put the state officer application into the chat, but I'll tell you that the biggest secret, I think, to any of these, to being successful in any of these positions is to be willing to try and to put yourself out there, and to have passion about being in 4-H and about 4-H and how great that is, to have passion about your project area, and being a leader and all of those good things, and having influence and being a mentor to younger 4-Hers. So those are the two big things. It's not anything about your, academia. It has nothing to do with how out of the box you are, how loud you are, how many people you know. I think it's a willingness to try new things, and to be passionate about 4-H and about yourself and about the things you're interested in. Like I said, it's all kind of a ladder. Our state leadership process is, we've got Teen Stars who can apply as a 14-year-old if their 4-H age is 14. Then after a year of Teen Star, you can apply for ambassador, and after a year of ambassador, state officer. So we've gone through all of those applications. I have put all of the links to applications in the chat, and along with the 4-H eligibility tracker. I see our president, Jack Berryhill, who likes to name himself Mr. President on these Zoom meetings, is here. And if you'll have any questions for him, he said he would be willing to answer. Or Jack, if you have anything to share, having gone through all these application processes, feel free to.
Sorry, I'm at a county team leaders meeting, so I'm stepping outside for some quiet.
Okay.
I will say, if you are able and you are willing to, I greatly encourage you to run. It's a great experience. It's a really good time. I mean, you get to plan team leader conference, so, big bonus there. And you get to be an example to all the younger 4-Hers below you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jack. If there's anyone else who would like to share, or if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. If you want to send them to me directly, if you don't want to ask out loud, you can do that. When you are a state officer, do you have to travel out of state often? That was from Sadie Lillard in White County. Sadie, I'll answer just generally, and then if Jack or I see Diamonds on here as well, if they want to answer, they can. There are a couple times that we take trips out of state. Neither one of those right now are mandatory trips. So something that I think is misunderstood a little bit about being a state officer is that everyone has to go to every single event or thing on our calendar. And that's not always true. Some things are mandatory and everyone has to be at, like Capitol Day, for instance, that's coming up at the end of the month. But some things are just, we need 1 or 2 officers or whoever lives the closest or something like that. But the few events that we have out of state right now are not mandatory. They are ones that who can, take the time off school or fit it into their homeschool schedule, and who is really passionate about whatever the event that we are attending is. And those 2 out-of-state trips that we have right now are SRTLC, which is Southern Region Teen Leader Conference, and then the American Farm Bureau Convention. So Arkansas Farm Bureau invites our state officers each year to attend their national convention. And so it's typically, or is, out of state. And Jack and Diamond, if you want to chime in about traveling out of state, feel free.
So like she's already said, our only 2 out-of-state events this year have been SRTLC and American Farm Bureau Convention. Neither are mandatory. However, I will say that if you can, I would highly suggest it. SRTLC is Southern Regional Teen Leader Conference. We got to travel to the Tennessee 4-H State Camp. We got to meet with kids from South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. We had they had workshops and roundtables, talk about leadership, community service, programs that you could take back to your counties and states. And it was a really great learning experience. American Farm Bureau Convention, it's held in different places every year. So for us, this year, it was held in Puerto Rico. We were gone for 7 days total, including both traveling there and traveling back. American Farm Bureau Conference, tremendous opportunity. We got to hear from several big figures, such as Ms. Jennifer Sarangelo from the National 4-H Council, President Zibby Duvall of National Farm Bureau. We got to meet Puerto Rican 4-Hers, hear about their program and their, I'll say island, because apparently saying country is not correct. So we get to hear about 4-H in their island. Got to learn about some of the things they do, some of their favorite programs. And we got to tour Puerto Rico.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I see Caitlin Cooper has asked, how often do people not get picked for ambassador? Caitlin, I can't really answer that. It varies year to year, and it varies on how many applicants we have that year. What I will say is that between your application and then your interview score, it is not like you have to get so many points or you have to be so far ahead on your interview score to get ambassador. We use what's called like a sliding scale and see where everyone kind of lies that year point wise, and based off interviews. We look a lot at the interview notes and see kind of what the interviewers had to say about your promotional speech, and how you answer questions and how you carried yourself. But then we also look at how you answered the questions on the application. It's a big combination of things. So I can't tell you that, like, you know, every year there are 3 people who don't get it. But what I will say is we are looking for people who are committed to 4-H and who are, you know, truly want to be ambassador for the program. And I think the more ambassadors across the state that we can have, the better. So that's the way I'll answer that.
Miss Ashley, do you mind if I chime in?
Yeah, go for it, Adeline.
Okay. Hey guys, so I'm Adeline Westfall. I am currently a state ambassador, and I was just wanting to let you guys know, I was messaged privately in the chat, and I was asked, what are the biggest tips that you would give to a person who is wanting to apply for Teen Star or ambassador? And I would say the biggest thing is to just try, because the worst thing that could happen is that you're in the exact same place that you are right now. And that's the motto that I've learned. But listen, if you are willing to seek those leadership roles and opportunities in your community, and you have heart and soul for 4-H, you're going to do fine. It's one of those things that I believe if you try hard enough, you'll get where you're going. So I just wanted to give y'all a little kind of push to say, hey, you know, you can do this. You've got this. And yeah, if any of you need to message me, I'm free to answer any questions. All right.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone else have questions? Feel free, you can unmute or throw it in the chat. I am putting in the chat a couple more links for you. I'm sure you're sick of that. But on each of the pages about our state position, so each of the website pages for Teen Star Ambassador and State Officer, there are information sheets. And those sheets completely spell out all of the, I guess, rules that I said before, and more. There's more on there. All the guidelines. It talks about when you know, decisions are made for each position. It talks about the process, election process, interview process, and all that good stuff. So it's really good information. And it has a QR code direct link to the actual application. So those might be helpful as well if you want to look at those information sheets. Have any more questions? All right. Well, I'm really, really sorry. Our Zoom in general, I don't think it was anything that had to do with my Zoom, or maybe it was, who knows, was kicking us out every time I shared my screen. So again, I'm going to send out a recording along with the slides so that you can kind of follow along as I talked through them to all of the county offices. So if you're on here and you want to see those slides, reach out to your county agent. Give me like a day and I'll get the video ready tomorrow and try and get it sent out tomorrow afternoon. So give your county agent maybe to the end of the week and then reach out to them and see if they have that recording and slides in their email. And then I will do my best to send it out through a couple other channels so that each of you can see it. If you have any questions, you want to hang out, feel free to hang around. But if not, I know it's about 7:45, so you might be looking for dinner or have some homework to catch up on. So feel free to go ahead and leave and do that if you'd like. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.